Welcome to this live stream from First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. Our mission is to love radically, grow ethically and spiritually, and serve justly. We invite you to visit our website at www.ucdsm.org. It's a great way to explore all that our church has to offer, from adult programs, to religious education, to social justice work, and more. But the best way to know us is to visit on a Sunday. We'd love to get to know you over a cup of coffee after the service. Speaking of which, today's service will begin shortly. So now we'll take you inside.
Hear these words from the Reverend Erica Hewitt. To be a Unitarian Universalist means we'll never be done with the work of telling the truth about oppression, the work of resisting any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity, the work of stubbornly seeking out the spark of the divine in each other, no matter what, the work of creating heaven on earth.
To be a Unitarian Universalist also means we're not alone in the work. We're not alone because of our promises to love one another. We're not alone because we are companions on the journey.
We grow ourselves into allies, helping one another get free, because none of us is truly free until we are all free. Please join with me in the chalice lighting words in your order of service. The chalice we light today is a symbol of our faith. It binds us together as one people, a reminder that our strength is in our shared hope for the world, and that our common work is the creation of beloved community among ourselves and in the world. And now let us pass the peace. If you would prefer a little personal space, simply remain seated, and your neighbors will take the cue and leave you in peace.
Good morning.
Morning.
Please join me in singing Let Freedom Span Both East and West, number 148 in the Gray Hymnal.
Good morning. I'm Elizabeth Williams, she, her, your celebrant this morning. We welcome all people who welcome all people. We welcome all genders, ethnicities, bodies, and stories. Whatever you are carrying with you, whatever you long to set down or pick up today, may you find here the love, support, and encouragement you seek. If this is your first time, welcome. If you'd like help connecting with folks, please be sure to grab a yellow Let's Talk mug during coffee hour to communicate your interest in getting to know more people. Our First Unitarian Church is located on land that has been home to people of woodland culture for 12,000 years, including the Iowa, Sauk, and Meskwaki. Okay, some quick gratitude notes. Let's see, Alma Hatfield submitted, thanks to Becky and Steve Evans, Walt Pearson and Catherine Lyon, Tom and Janet Thurtle, and Christina Walkup, who have gone out of their way to provide me rides to church and events to help with making my pledge to the church and truly make life more worth living. I love all of you, and I'm so grateful for all your help and your friendship. Being able to participate even the smallest way in the activities of Unitarian Universalism, the religion that makes sense to me in my heart and in my head, is a gift beyond measure. Thank you all. And from Tracy, I'd like to recognize Barb Royal, Deirdre Fudge, Elaine Imlau, Laura Berardi, and Louise Alcorn for helping sign up people for the Church Pictorial Directory. They were instrumental on helping get the word out and helping our members and friends get signed up. Thanks so much.
Good morning, everyone. I'm the Reverend Steve Seek. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm honored to serve as your minister. I'm also impressed at your cold tolerance today. Thank you. That's not a judgment if you're watching online. As Unitarian Universalists, we are not held together by any creed, but by our commitment to one another. As part of membership, we agree to the bond of union. And so I invite you to please join with me in speaking together our bond of union. We covenant to associate ourselves together for the study and practice of morality and religion, as interpreted by the growing thought and noblest lives of humanity, hoping thereby to prove helpful to one another and to promote truth, righteousness, and love in the world. Now you can remain seated despite what I put in the order of service as we sing our next hymn.
Our next hymn is number 155, Circle Round for Freedom. We're going to sing the middle line, which is the melody, which is so much more fun.
Good morning. My name is Faithiana Leonard. I serve as the Faith Formation and Congregational Life Coordinator. As you can see, we have some bell tables here today, so we're going to ask youth to remain seated. And after we read the story, we will sing the children out. If this is your first time here and you have a youth that would like to participate in our classes, we ask that you exit with us. We're going to use the top doors today. Exit with us to class and then get your child signed in, and then afterwards you're welcome to return back to the service. Today's story is The Playground with the Fence, written by Faithiana Leonard. In a bright little town, there was a school with a big playground. The playground had swings, a slide, a sandbox, and a wide green field where kids loved to run. Every day, children laughed and played together. But one morning, something strange appeared. A fence had been built right across the playground. On one side of the fence were children with darker skin, and on the other side of the fence were children with lighter skin. The fence was tall and wooden with a sign that said, "You may only play on your side." The children stared at the sign. "But the swings are on your side," said Maya, pressing her hands against the fence. "And the slide is on your side," said Ben. "That's not fair." Some children could swing and slide all day. Others only had a small patch of grass. When the whistle blew, everyone tried to play, but something felt wrong. The children with the swings didn't laugh as much. The children without them felt sad and left out. At lunchtime, a quiet boy named Leo said, "My mom says that if one person is treated unfairly, it hurts everyone." A girl named Layla nodded. "My grandma says none of us are free until we are all free." And the children looked at the fence again, and they noticed something new. Even the kids with the swings weren't really happy. They missed their friends on the other side. So the next day, the children came together at the fence. They didn't shout. They didn't push. They held hands along the fence and said together, "This isn't fair. We all deserve to play, and we all belong." Teachers came. Parents came, the principal came too, and they listened, and then something wonderful happened. The fence was taken down, the sign was removed, the playground was whole again. Children of every color ran together, swinging, sliding, laughing, and cheering. And from that day on, whenever someone was treated unfairly, the children remembered, if one of us is kept from joy, then none of us are truly free.
Oh, in joy, Good morning. Elaine Imlau, she, her. And I'm just sure every one of us at one time or another in the last 6 months has been frantically trying to find a way to climb over all the furniture and boxes that are in the corner of Griffin Hall to get to the gratitude bulletin board. You'll be happy to know that it has now moved to a smaller but easier accessible location above the oak table in the gathering area, below the social, the Faith and Action bulletin board. I'm just putting it up now. So, when you're ready to recognize one of the many things that somebody in our congregation does to keep us going and doing all the wonderful things that we do, you can pick up a blank gratitude card in the pocket on the bulletin board and handwrite it, or you can always use the link that's posted in the intercom every week and send it in online, and I'll print it out and post it for you. So show that gratitude. Thanks very much.
And in that spirit of gratitude, we take this moment now to give thanks to Barb Glass. Barb has served our caring community at First Unitarian Church for, where are you, Barb? For about 40 years, I think, bringing her compassionate listening ear to generations of congregants. She is stepping down from this role, and Barb, we want to take this moment to express our deep, deep gratitude for your loving kindness in this community. As our Woods Restoration Project continues, please know that we will be planting something to honor your rooted, flowering gift of caring ministry here. Thank you, Barb.
Good morning, everyone. I'm John Morrow, a pastoral care associate for our congregation, and sometimes we experience big changes in our lives, and we need a good listener to talk to. If you are feeling overwhelmed, lost, or alone in your grief, please call the pastoral care team. You can reach out to us at pastoralcareteam@ucdsm.org. You can also request assistance or submit a joy or sorrow through the Caring Committee page on our website, or by speaking to me or any member of the pastoral care team. In this community, we hold it all: joy and sorrow, laughter and tears, and everything in between. Here's what's been shared with us this week. First, a reminder of our new Cares and Concerns box located at the Pastoral Care Desk just outside the auditorium. Cares and Concerns cards are one more way to share what's on your hearts and minds, so you don't have to hold it alone. You can choose to share your name or remain anonymous. And there are boxes to check if you'd like a call from the minister, a visit from pastoral care, or to have your concerns shared with the congregation on Sunday morning. Here's what's been shared with us this week. Mary Ellen Miller had knee replacement surgery on January 15th, and is recovering with the support of her wonderful neighbors. Let's send our care and healing energy to Mary Ellen as she recovers. You're invited to sign a card for her at the Pastoral Care Desk after the service. We continue to send love and sympathy to the Shivers family as they grieve the loss of David, their beloved husband and father. We learned this week that former member David Churchill died on January 12th. We are keeping his family in our hearts during this difficult time. Please stop by the Pastoral Care Desk after the service to sign a card for the family. And I'll be passing the card around the tables after service. Finally, an update on the Grief Support Circle. We are transitioning to a new date and time for this group as our facilitator, Anna Davis Evans, takes some time to prepare for the birth of her baby. Kara Andreski has graciously agreed to step in and facilitate while Anna steps back. Our new meeting time is the second Sunday of each month at 3 p.m. in the minister's office. The next gathering is on February 8th, and all are welcome. Through the joys, the sorrows, and everything in between, may love carry us. Here, we honor it all, grateful for the kindness, care, and presence of this community. We take this next moment to share aloud or in writing the names of those you are carrying in your heart today. Kyle. We light 3 candles this morning. One for the joys and sorrows shared aloud. One for those shared in writing, and one for those held silently among us.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. Let us now take up our morning offering, for in giving we receive. This morning's reading is an excerpt from Dr. Abram X. Kendi's book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. He writes, "What's the problem with being not racist? It is a claim that signifies neutrality. I am not a racist, but neither am I aggressively against racism. But there is no neutrality in the racism struggle. The opposite of racist isn't not racist, it is anti-racist. What's the difference? One endorses either the idea of a racial hierarchy as a racist or racial equality as an anti-racist. One either believes problems are rooted in groups of people as a racist or locates the roots of the problems in power and policies as an anti-racist. One either allows racial inequalities to persevere as a racist, or confronts racial inequities as an anti-racist. There is no in-between safe space of not racist. The claim of not racist neutrality is a mask for racism. This may seem harsh, but it's important at the outset that we apply one of the core principles of anti-racism, which is to return the word racist itself back to its proper usage. Racist is not, as Richard Spencer argues, a pejorative. It is not the worst word in the English language. It is not the equivalent of a slur. It is descriptive. And the only way to undo racism is to consistently identify and describe it, and then dismantle it. The attempt to turn this usefully descriptive term into an almost unusable slur is, of course, designed to do the opposite, to freeze us into inaction. The good news is that racist and anti-racist are not fixed identities. We can be racist one minute and an anti-racist the next. What we say about race, what we do about race, in each moment determines what, not who, we are.
I want to preach about puppies. They're adorable, they have floppy ears, and they give tiny little kisses. And as you use having ethical orientations toward compassion and equity and democracy, we are therefore feeling exhausted and angry and overwhelmed by the daily news. We seek a balm to soothe our sin-sick souls. It would be nice to get a little break with some puppies. But this Sunday, we find ourselves overlapping two themes that I must honor. First, we're speaking this month about practicing resistance and how timely that is. And second, this weekend, our nation remembers the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And so in the intersection of these two themes, I cannot in good conscience bury my head in the sand. Because I need to say that the story I grew up with about the Reverend Dr. King was an incomplete story. What I remember in school learning about the Reverend Dr. King went a little bit like this. Once, there were bad white people in the South who did bad things to black people. And then President Lincoln said, you need to stop that. And they didn't. So there was a civil war to stop it. But then when the bad white people in the South kept being bad, Reverend Dr. King said, I have a dream. And then the bad things stopped. And then he was martyred for his dream. That's the story I remember, and it served a lot of purposes. It made Northerners like me feel good, innocent, and righteous. It made white people like me feel like the story of racism was now done. Now, the evidence of my lived experience was contradicting that story every day, growing up in Chicago, hearing from my black friends and schoolmates. But people can live with cognitive dissonance for a long time. And so, for many of us, the movement for Black Lives in the 2010s rattled that story and called folks to wake up, especially folks with Unitarian Universalist values, and to please stop telling such an incomplete story. And so I recognize how much more welcome puppies would be today. But we do Dr. King no honor that way. We shall tell a more complete story, a story that honors why he resisted. A story that gives us the courage to talk about what he resisted. Because we're brave people and we can do hard things. That is the line that my kids are using at school now. We're brave people. We can do hard things. Before we begin, though, I want you to notice something. I have been noticing this as well. Notice your heart rate right now and your skin temperature. My watch is constantly yelling at me about this. Because as soon as Elizabeth started reading from Dr. Kendi and used the word racism, your body reacted. Whatever you were thinking, your body had a reaction, and of course it did. Because we have learned very early and very often in our lives, do not have this conversation. If you experience this body reaction, it does not mean that you are bad. It does not mean that you are racist. It does not mean that you are fragile. It means that you were raised in America, that your body has learned to armor up around these conversations. So let me address this now. I am not preaching that we are all terrible racists. I am not calling you out today. And if you end up finding at the end of this sermon that you took it personally, I invite you to get curious about that. What about this conversation made me take this personally? Because I've read this whole sermon, and I want to assure you that there is no paragraph that is a shaming and blaming paragraph. But we will tell a more complete story today. Now, to tell that story, I need to talk about two ships. On January 13th, 2012, the Italian cruise liner Costa Concordia deviated from its planned route along the Mediterranean. This is what the boat looks like. It's very lovely. Unfortunately, the captain hadn't noticed a massive rock formation on the sea floor, which caused a major rupture to the hull of the ship. The boat began to list and tip sternside, and there was a heroic 6-hour rescue that saved most of the 4,000 people on board, with 32 people dying. So this is the before photo. And in this photo, In this photo, everybody has a safe place on the boat. Some rooms are nicer than others. Some views are different than others. No one is submerged. Everyone can move about the cabin, enjoy the views, play some shuffleboard, flourish. This boat can sail. And then, of course, this is what it looked like shortly after. In this photo, not everyone on board has a safe place on the boat. Some rooms are still dry, though they are now completely pitched 75 degrees, and some are completely submerged. So the people on the port side, up in the air, don't have a water problem, but the people on the stern side definitely have a water problem. The people on the port side would prefer to have their rooms pitched back, but the people on the stern side cannot live until the boat is righted. The port side would prefer a righted ship. The stern side will drown until the ship is righted. We could finish the sermon there with the metaphor, right? That would be avoiding telling a more complete story. That is our first ship. And now to the second ship. On August 25th, 1619, the English pirate ship, the White Lion, arrived at Old Point Comfort in Hampton, Virginia. Here is a model of it. On board this ship included about 24 enslaved men and women from the African kingdom of Ndongo in present-day Angola. This was not the first time, right? There had been previous attempts by the Spanish to bring African people to the North American continent. But this moment, August 25th, 1619, would be marked as the beginning of 246 years of institutionalized enslavement. 246 years. An estimated 10 million African Americans were enslaved. 10 million is an awfully big number to get your head around. It is every soul in New York City and Philadelphia today. That's 10 million. Now, the human beings who arrived on the White Line, thank you, we can let that go now, were traded for food and placed into indentured servitude. So the people doing this transaction saw them, of course, as people, but people who were forced to work. As the British colonists' appetite for free labor grew, and of course it did, and the cost of bringing people over from the Atlantic was weighed, a new form of enslavement arose, built on a new idea that we would say that there are immutable kinds of people, races of people, with differing levels of personhood. If there were, as the 17th century scientist Linnaeus suggested, 5 categories or races of humans, then it would follow that some had more personhood than others. And so began on this continent a national project of racism, a project to justify the dehumanization of a growing population of African Americans born on the colonies. Now, by the time we turn into the 1700s, this dehumanizing project produced the Virginia Slave Code of 1705. This is a document that should be required reading in American public education. And the fact that it isn't is very obvious. It tells a story we don't want to read. You cannot read the Virginia Slave Code without a bucket for your vomit and a box of Kleenex for your tears. And so this dehumanizing work continues, and by 1776, the very same man who writes, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights." That same Thomas Jefferson also enslaved people. He just stopped seeing them as people. A project that started with a boat in 1619, codified into a sort of national cognitive dissonance of a partially flooded ship by 1776. For the ship that we call America started capsized. And it's important to name that. It started partially underwater, some people in dry cabins and some people submerged. And let us name that it was soul-destroying and generationally traumatic for the people in the port side, sloped 75 degrees, passing on generation after generation the trauma of enslaving. But let us not say that that is better or worse. It is significantly worse to be sternside. Now, at this point, we long for some yes, but also. And some of that part of those stories is true. Yes, the Emancipation Proclamation declared all the enslaved people in America free, January 1st, 1863. And it is true that General Sherman signed Field Order 15 on January 16th, 1865, allotting 40 acres of land to every formerly enslaved African American in the South, redistributing massive southern plantations back to the people who had produced all of its wealth. And no, those efforts did not right the ship. For no sooner was Lincoln murdered in 1865 than President Andrew Johnson rescinded the 40-acre deal. The reparations for what the National Institutes of Health report estimates to be 410 billion hours of unpaid labor accrued during those 246 years. If you were to pay a minimum wage of $15 an hour for those 410 billion hours of labor, America would owe over $6 trillion. After Lincoln, a long, steady drumbeat of Jim Crow segregation, of lynching, of redlining, of job discrimination, of school discrimination, every imaginable way to keep the port side up and the stern side submerged. So you see, the story I learned was that Reverend Dr. King said, "But I have a dream," in 1963, and then in 1964, the first of the two Civil Rights Acts passed, the second one coming 1 week after he was murdered. And thus the ship was righted. Well, the laws made it illegal to continually sink the ship, but they never righted the ship. And that's the essential part of the story that was never told to me. The $6 trillion debt remained unpaid. And while that number, but I don't want to get lost in that conversation, but let's just name that number seems incomprehensible from a national budget. But between March 2020 and March 2021, the American government spent $4 trillion previously unallotted dollars, $4 trillion on the Coronavirus Aid Relief Act and the American Rescue Plan. We are, in fact, capable of writing $4 trillion of checks in a year. But beyond the financial reparations, what about the moral atonement? Reagan was able to apologize for the Japanese internment camps publicly. Clinton apologized for the Tuskegee experiments. No president has apologized for 246 years of enslavement. Beyond that, a nation can, in fact, make all these efforts to right its ship. Germany has formally and consistently apologized to Israel on a moral level, and also continually paid families who were affected by Holocaust murders over 80 billion euros. It is possible for a nation to recognize that its ship is capsized and try to right it. And by the way, laws to make racism illegal don't stop racism. I think we all understand that. Following you around the store or trusting you to shop, pulling you over because of your headlight, or letting you go. Here's the one that I really can't get my head around. We are capable of safely arresting white men who are in the act of mass murder. Dylan Roof at that Black Baptist church, Robert Bowers at the Tree of Life Synagogue. But we will immediately kill a child like Tamir Rice. It's really important to say the ship has not been righted. Not to blame, not to shame, but to say the hard thing. And so I'm here today to say that we should not be comfortable with such a capsized ship. We shouldn't pretend that the story was resolved in 1964 or 1968. The story that I learned was incomplete. Now, there are threats to justice that affect all of the boat immediately, threats that put us in a situation where everyone can feel the water rising up to their knees. For example, our colleagues in Minneapolis are basically under paramilitary occupation right now. I'm talking with fellow UU ministers and congregations doing frontline work. They're getting pepper sprayed, they're getting tear gassed, and they're still out there doing the good work, mutual aid to neighbors, protecting immigrants. But what really sobered American conversation up was when a white woman got shot, because then no one's safe. So we resist, we must, our consciences call us to, we can feel the water rising. But I want to say today that there are threats that do not affect everyone the same way. And we're called to practice resistance that rights the ship to resist racist practices in our homes and schools and churches and workplaces, our community, our state and nation. Because as Dr. Kendi points out in Elizabeth's reading, there isn't a neutral stance on this. You either oppose it or you tolerate it. You either right the ship or you're fine with it being capsized. You're called to do this work, even if it doesn't directly affect everyone. And I want to name that this is where our previous sermons this month merge together into a triptych, if you will. Because on January 4th, we talked about when is your resistance morally grounded and when is resistance just being a pain in the butt. When you resist racism in America, you center work and compassion for anyone oppressed. And you don't do it for selfish gain, my cabin, but for the liberation of the whole boat. You don't do it to annihilate the bad Southern racist. You do it to transform America. Then the next week, January 11th, we talked about the calculus of resistance. What am I risking when I resist? There is absolutely a risk anytime you speak up about racism. I've done it several times in work meetings. I've been shouted at every time. I understand. When you bring it up with a family member, they don't thank you for it that moment. There is a cost to not speaking up, and it might not be your cost, but someone is paying it. Let us also calculate the possibility that when you work locally or across the cafe table with Uncle Dan to combat racism, that person can change, that you can love Uncle Dan enough that someday he's grateful that you loved him into a better way of being in the world. And so today we see in Reverend Dr. King's resistance a call to work for a seaworthy ship, whether or not we're dry or submerged. Now, Dr. King never expected the KKK to change their stance on his worth. He understood what they were about, but he did expect white liberals to speak up and was crestfallen by that silence. You'll remember this part of Dr. King's letter from a Birmingham jail. I see it on your social media. I see it on our bumper stickers. I think we've got this one. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We're caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. What affects one directly affects us all indirectly. If the ship is sinking anywhere, the ship hasn't been righted. Let's build a seaworthy boat. Later in the letter, he explains just how capsized the boat is, saying, "We have waited for more than 340 years for our constitutional and God-given rights. Perhaps it is easy for those who have never felt the stinging darts of segregation to say, wait. But when you have seen the vicious mob lynch your mothers and fathers at will," and then he goes on in prophetic language to talk about just how submerged it is. But then he names this hard thing that has shaken me for decades. He says, "I must confess that over the past few years I've been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I've almost reached the regrettable conclusion that our great stumbling block and our stride toward freedom is not the white citizens' counselor or the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate who's more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice." And here our boat metaphor cries out. A negative peace, which is the absence of tension. Don't rock the boat. Wherever the boat is, don't rock it. The positive peace, which is the presence of justice. Let us right the ship. And so a fuller story emerges now of Dr. King's work, why he was resisting, one of justice work that faces opposition not just from the KKK, but from the don't rock the boat moderate. A fuller story emerges of America's journey through its capsized nature. This is a harder story than the one I learned in 3rd grade. I think I understand why they taught me that way. But this story doesn't have an end yet because our story as a nation is not done. I know sometimes we feel like America is now in its credits of the film, but it is not done yet. So I want to come back to your heart rate and your skin temperature. For you and I did not capsize this ship. We were not around in 1619 or 1776. We shall not be shamed or blamed for the state of the ship that we were born onto. We are not responsible for saving America. And I don't like to wage war on a noun like racism. Besides, that's a savior mentality, and that tends to end up making things much worse. However, we are current passengers on the ship. So we can do something. We can show up when someone asks for help and then help in the way that we've been asked to help. We can step in or speak up when someone tries to tip the boat further underwater. And this responsibility isn't just in our elections. It's across the cafe table with Uncle Dan. You know, Dr. King said we're caught in this inescapable web of network of mutuality tied together in a single garment of destiny. What affects one directly affects all indirectly. That is an articulation of our seventh principle, the interdependence of all things. That's our value right there. But I will say that when I first read that quote in young adulthood, I did not like that. My entrained reaction was, are you telling me I'm accountable to anyone on earth at all times who is not doing well? That seems unreasonable. I was reading it as, Tammy Johnson of Decorah, Iowa, what are you doing to save Thomas Johnson falsely imprisoned in South Africa in this moment? Or as I like to say with our phones, we now have the ears of the Buddha to hear all of the world's suffering. It's overwhelming. And because that seemed overwhelming, I think I missed his point. When someone in your community says that their cabin on the boat is taking on too much water, you can help in whatever ways you can. Or if you can't help in that way, at least don't impede the work with your timeline for a dry cabin is too quick for me. When I really go back and reread his letter from Birmingham jail, there's so much possibility in what he's saying. In this web of mutuality, so much community, so much love, so much joy in it. It reminds us that we're not 8 billion tiny little boats each on our own in an impassable sea. We're in this together. We're part of something so much bigger than me or you or this congregation. And there will be a day when a critical mass of us commits to tipping the boat aright. I brought up Germany to say it's not impossible to imagine. And on that day, it will be different. It will be different, of course, because we've been on a 75-degree tilt for centuries, generations of trauma passed down to everyone. But what we fail to consider when we think about that is it'll be better. More connection, more community, more mutual thriving. Racism is a disease, but it's also a dis-ease with your fellow Des Moines residents. A distrust, a fear that we experience as we move through this world on a 75-degree pitch. We're not resisting to be pains in the butt. We're resisting because we want to know what the ship will be like when we can sail it. Can you imagine an America where we all have a foundational capacity to flourish? And so the question that we can linger with for weeks and months and years is, what will I have to change in myself? And what will we have to change in the community to work to shift it? Because it's so scary to think about the work of righting the ship. But when we do, all of us are free. And that's a kind of flourishing that we have not yet known in this nation. In this work of building the beloved community, well, as the song goes, we would be one in living for each other to show to all a new community. And I think that's a story worth telling. Amen.
Please rise as you are able, and join me in singing, as Steve mentioned, We Would Be One.
Love greater
Please join me in saying the extinguishing chalice words in your order of service or on the screen. The flame is extinguished, but not our hope for the future, our courage in the face of crisis, or the love we share in the world.
Beloveds, we have in us the capacity to help right the ship. And on that day, we will know what it truly means to sail. Go, therefore, in courage, in compassion. Go in peace.
As this live stream from First Unitarian Church comes to an end, remember that previous live streams can be found on our YouTube channel. We'd love to see you in person someday. Until then, thanks for joining us.